Good morning students. Today I will be giving you a lecture on how to declare classes and objects in Java and then to implement them in a Java program. So let's start with how to declare a class in Java. The syntax for declaring a class in Java is like this. It starts with class name, where the text class name has to be replaced by user specified name. For instance, if the user chooses to specify the text computer as the class name, then he should write the statement as class computer for declaring the class called computer. Now once you declare the class, the next thing is to give a body for the class. It starts with an opening curly bracket and ends with a closing curly bracket. Then inside the body of this class we have two sections. The first section lists the set of member variable names or the data members. These data members should be preceded by a data type. That means if the data member or the member variable name that you have declared accepts integer values, then the data type has to be int. If the member variable name that you have declared accepts decimal values, then the data type should be float. If the member variable name that you have declared accepts larger integer values, then the data type should be long. Now soon after you have declared these set of member variable names, the next step is to declare these member method names. The syntax to declare the member method names is like this. Just before the member method name, declare the data type. Okay, this data type is the return data type. Now a method can return a value or cannot return a value. If a member cannot return a value, then the return data type will be void. Okay, that means if the member method do not returns any value, then the return data type will be void. But if the member method returns a value, say for example if it returns an integer value, then the return data type will be int. Or else if the member method returns a decimal value, then the return data type will be float. Or else if the member method returns a larger integer value, then the return data type will be long. Now just after declaring the member method, you can specify some arguments for this method. If you do not specify any arguments, this argument list will be empty. But just as how the class has a body which is represented by an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, in the same way this method will also be having a body which will be represented by an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and inside this body there will be a set of action statements which will be executed. So to sum it up, this is the entire class. This is the section for declaring the data members, and this is the section for declaring the member methods. I will show you how to declare objects after some time. Now consider this diagrammatic representation of the class called computer. This class called computer consists of three member variables or three data members. The first data member is serial no, whose type is int. The second data member is speed, whose type is float. And the third data member is RAM size, whose type is long. Since the data member serial no has a type int, it accepts only integer values. Now what are the integer values? Integer values are those values which accepts positive numbers, negative numbers, and 0. The second data member accepts decimal values. That's why its type is float. The third data member accepts larger integer values. That is why its type is long. Now don't be confused with the type int and the type long, because both represent integer values. Okay, both long and int represent integer values, but the only difference between int and long is that int represents smaller to medium size integer values, whereas long represents larger size integer values. Since serial no is of type int, so the member variable or the data member serial no accepts small to medium sized integer values. And since the data type of the member variable RAM size is long, so RAM size will accept larger integer values. Now as soon as you declare these variable names or these data members along with their data types, some amount of memory space will be reserved for these data members. For the data member serial no of type int, which accepts smaller to medium sized integer values, it will consume less memory space. Okay, so less memory space will be reserved for serial no as compared to speed and RAM size. This is because RAM size holds larger integer values as compared to serial no, which accepts smaller to medium sized integer values. Since it accepts larger integer values, so the memory space allocated for RAM size will also be larger as compared to serial no. Again, the member variable or the data member speed is of type float, and even float consumes much larger memory space as compared to int. So larger memory spaces will be allocated for this member variable called speed, as it accepts decimal values. So this is the section for declaring the data members. Soon after this section of data members, you have the section for declaring the methods or the behaviors. So in the class called computer, there are three methods: start, shutdown, and show properties. All these three methods has no arguments because there is no element within this bracket. Same for shutdown, it has no arguments because no elements within brackets. Again, for show properties, there is no arguments because there is no elements within this bracket. Now I will show you a Java program, okay, that will create this class called computer using this syntax. Now see, at first you have declared the class called computer by specifying the keyword class and then the name of the class called computer. So class computer. So class, in place of class name we have computer. So this is the first line, and then you have the body of the class. with the starting curly bracket and the ending curly bracket. So here also this is the body of the class with the starting curly bracket and the ending curly bracket. Now inside this body of the class, the first section is the declaration of data members. So this is the declaration section for declaring the data members. The first data member to be declared is serial no of type int. So we specify it like this: int space serial no followed by a semicolon. Here int is the data type, okay, as shown in the syntax. Int is the data type, and serial no is the member variable name. Then soon after that we have a semicolon. So soon after that we have a semicolon. Now just as how you declared the first data member, similarly you declare the second data member called speed, and since it accepts only decimal values, so declare its type as float. So float speed followed by semicolon. Here float becomes the data type, speed becomes the member variable name, then the semicolon. Then declare the third data item called RAM size of type long. Same here, long becomes the data type, RAM size becomes the member variable name or the data member. Now soon after declaring these data members, in the next section we have to declare these member methods. The first member method is void start. Okay, void start. Here void is the return data type. Since this method start is not returning any value, so we specify the return data type as void. Now if you check the syntax here return data type is void and the member method name is start, where the argument list will be empty. Why empty? This is because there is no element within bracket. That's why the argument list will be empty. Now this method has a body. This method has a body. This is the starting and this is the closing of the body. Inside this you have the action statement. So inside the member method name there can be list of action statements. The action statement of the first method start prints the text your computer started using the statement system.out.println. So just after the text your computer started gets displayed, it will the cursor will move to the next line because of this ln. Remember, ln means moving to the next line. So system.out.println, just this, once this text gets displayed in the screen, the mouse cursor will move to the next line. Now this is the first method. Similarly, for the second method shutdown, the action statement prints this text, that is, you have successfully shut down your computer. Again, for the third method show properties, you have three action statements. At first it's printing the serial number to the first action statement, then it's printing speed to the second action statement, then it prints RAM size through the third action statement. Okay, now for each method there is a body as shown in this program. For each method there is a body. Now I think there is one extra bracket coming out here. I'm just going to delete this extra bracket. This is because this is the closing curly bracket for this class and this is the opening curly bracket for this class. Now to sum it up, within this class called computer, I have declared 3 data members, serial no speed and RAM size, and 3 member method, void start, void shutdown, and void show properties. The methods start and shutdown has just one action statement, but the method show properties has 3 action statements. Now the next thing that I'm going to show is how this object, which is an instance of this class called computer, interacts with this class through these methods. Let's say we have created an object of this class called computer and the name of this object is PC. Then this object PC is going to interact with this class called computer through these methods called start, shutdown, and show properties, and I'm going to show that to you now with the help of that Java program. Now before that, you should know how to declare and create this object of the class computer. So for that, just remember the syntax of declaring the object. The syntax goes like this. At first you specify the class name, then the object name, then write the equal to operator, then the keyword new. This is mandatory to write if you wish to declare objects. Then again the class name. Now if you wish to declare an object of this class computer whose name is PC, if you wish to declare an object of the class called computer whose name is PC as shown in this figure, then you write like this. You write it like this. Here class name, since the name of the class is computer, so in place of class name we specify computer, then put a space, then the object name, since it's PC, so we write PC for object name. Okay, we are referring to this object PC. Then put the equal to symbol, then this word new is mandatory, so write this word new. Now what does this keyword new does? See, as soon as you declare an object, some amount of memory space will be reserved for this object. Okay, and your object will be created with the help of this new, with the help of this new keyword, and memory space will also be allocated for the object. Then after writing new, put the name of the class name again. Okay, that is, since your class name is computer, so I write computer, followed by, what does this represent? An opening and a closing bracket. This is the space for putting some elements. Okay, this is for the argument list. If you do not specify any elements as arguments, then this part will be empty. So this is how you declare these objects. Now once you interact with the class through this object called PC with the help of these methods, you will solve a real world problem that will shut down the computer, start up the computer, or even show the properties of a computer. Let's show how it happens. Now see, you have come to know how to declare this class, its data members, and its member methods. Now after you declare this class, okay, since I don't have space, I'm writing the next part, directing this arrowhead. The next part is the part for declaring this object. Now remember that the object has to be declared inside the main method. Okay, always whenever you create objects like this, these types of objects can be declared and created only inside the main method, where the main method is declared like this: public static void main. Okay, we call it as the main method or the main function. And once you declare it as public static void main, then you specify the arguments. Now see, this main method will be having arguments. That's why inside this small bracket we specify the argument as args, and the argument will be of data type string. Okay, so this is the predefined format for declaring the main method, so you remember that. Just like the class, which starts with an opening and a closing curly bracket, even the main function or the main method, it starts with an opening and a closing curly bracket. Okay, it starts with an opening and a closing curly bracket. Inside this body, represented by the opening and closing curly bracket of the main function, you declare the objects. Now see, the first line is just a comment. I'm giving the comment as declaring objects of the class. Okay, the class in this case is computer. Now how do you know that this line is a comment? So whenever you specify a comment, be sure to give two slash symbols like this. Okay, these two slash symbols denotes that this text declaring objects of class is a comment. So just before declaring the object, I am giving a comment like this, declaring objects of the class. And in the next line, I declare the object. Okay, this object takes no arguments, so that's why there is no element within this bracket. Now since I'm declaring an object called PC of the class computer, so we write like this: computer PC equal to new computer. And since this object takes no arguments, so there is no element within this bracket. Now just after you declare this object called PC, next you interact with the class using this object called PC. You interact with the class called computer and then assign certain values to the data members. Now see how the object interacts with the class called computer. The object interacts with the class called computer using a dot operator as shown like this. Since the name of the object is PC, write PC dot. Okay, when you write dot, means the object PC is going to interact with the class called computer. Now assign some initial values for the data member serial node. Let's say I assigned an initial value called 102 for serial number. So that is represented as pc.serial number equal to 102. Then in the next line, let's say I assign an initial value for speed, which is 2.0. Now why I wrote 2.0? This is because speed is the data member which accepts only decimal values and its type is float. That's why I wrote pc.speed equal to 2.0. Then again, for the data member RAM size, let's say the initial value that has been assigned is 4000. Okay, so all these initial values has been assigned to serial node, speed and RAM size with the help of this object called PC of the class computer. And this is assigned only when this object interacts with the class computer to assign these values to the data members. Now once these values for data members gets assigned, the next part is you have to call these member methods. Now as I already explained that the objects interact with this class through these member methods after setting the initial values for the data members. So I again give a comment line called calling member methods. The comment line precedes with a double slash. Then firstly, this object PC that I have created will call the method start using a dot operator. So this is represented as pc.start. Now as soon as this method called start is called using this object called PC, this method gets executed. And once this method gets executed, there is a body, and the statement inside this body is system.out.println, then the text within inverted code. And what's this text? Your computer started. So this text gets displayed in your output. Okay, this text gets displayed in your output. Remember that whatever text you supply it within inverted code after this statement system.out.println, that particular text will get displayed in your output. This is because system.out.println will direct this text your computer started into the output. Okay, so once this text gets displayed into the output, again the control will come to the next line after pc.start, which is pc.showProperties. Now here the object PC is calling the method showProperties using the dot operator. So this is the method called showProperties. It will execute this method, and then since this method also have a body, it will come inside this body, and then it will execute all these three action statements. The first action statement says system.out.println. Then see, at first you have the text serial number within inverted code. Now whatever text is within inverted code, it's going to be displayed as it is in the output. So serial no colon will be getting displayed as it is in the output, like this. Okay, like this, as it is in the output. Now after that, this plus symbol is going to add something to this text serial no. What it's going to add? Serial no. Now see, this serial no is not within inverted code. That means this is the member variable or the data member that you have declared here. Okay, and also you have assigned a value to this serial no. with the help of objects, and that value is 102. So in place of serial no, what will be shown in the output section is the value of serial no, which is nothing but 102. So in the output you see 102. Then again, due to this ln, okay, just because of this ln, every time you display something to the output, it comes to the next line. At first you displayed the text your computer started, then it moves to the next line, then you displayed serial number 102, okay, then again it moves to the next line. Now here the second action statement prints speed, okay, the text speed is within inverted code, so it will be displayed as it is like this. Then plus something is added to this text speed, that is the data member speed, okay, declared here, and the initial value assigned to this data member speed is 2.0. so 2.0 gets displayed here in place of this variable or the data member speed. And again something more is added to this variable name speed, so plus what gets added, the text ZHZ, which is again within inverted code, and since it is within inverted code, so exactly the text ZHZ gets displayed here. Then it moves to the next line because of this ln. Then see the last action statement. Here the text RAM size is within inverted code, so it gets displayed exactly as it is in the output, plus the data member RAM size, which is declared here, whose value is 4000, assigned to with the help of the object PC, and the value is 4000, so 4000 will get displayed here. Then plus another text that is GB, okay, within inverted code will be added, so this text, since it's within inverted code, will be shown exactly as it is in the output, okay. So this is the output. Now after executing these three statements and showing its result in the output, then the control will again move to the next statement after this function show properties, that is the object PC now calls this function or this method shutdown. Now this is the method called shutdown. This method also has only one action statement inside this body, that is it prints the text you have successfully shut down your computer with the help of the statement system.out.println. So since this text is within inverted code, so it will be printed as it is in the output, that is you have successfully shut down your computer. And then the control again comes back here, and just after this, what is the next thing? The closing curly bracket. So this closes the body of the main function, and the main function stops executing, and the result is this output. So I hope you understood the workflow of this program. Remember, the workflow of this program always starts from the main method, okay. It starts with the main method. It declares an object first for the class that you have declared, and then through the help of these objects it assigns some initial values to these data members declared in the class, and again with the help of this object that you have created, it calls these member methods one by one, okay. So after doing all these stuffs, you get the output just like this, as shown in this slide. So this is how these values 102 get stored in serial number, 2.0 gets stored in speed, and 4000 gets stored in RAM size when this object PC interacts with the class computer. So that's all for today. In the next class I will show you another program in Java that uses classes and objects.